Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 477. 477! Oh my. Saturday morning, June the 30th, 2018. Whew, gonna be a hot one today. We're expecting to be well over 90 degrees, close to 100 with the heat index. Hot, humid day. So hopefully you guys are getting some cool breezes wherever you are, because they ain't happening here. But we got a lot of hot news for you today too. So let's get started for this Saturday morning edition. Well, it appears that Uncle Bob, the executioner Mueller, and his Hillary donor posse have asked for a third delay in the Flynn sentencing hearing. Judge Ellis does not appear to be amused. What is going on? Well, here's what's going on. Mueller watched those hearings, and he knows that Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz, if I can say it, Huckleberry Horowitz, is looking into whether or not McCabe altered those 302s. Those very 302s that Judge Ellis forced Uncle Bob the executioner to provide to him. He's probably read them himself. Maybe he has the same ideas. So what's going on? Well, I'll tell you what I think is going on. Just my speculation here. Uncle Bob, the executioner, realizes that if he goes ahead and sentences Michael Flynn, and it turns out that we find out 6 months or a year from now that the 302s were altered, not only is Flynn going to be, exonerated, having the charges wiped from his record, but he's going to have one hell of a big lawsuit. Not only that, Uncle Bob the executioner could find himself in legal jeopardy, along with the Hillary donor posse that's assisting him. Why? Because it's very likely, almost impossible to believe, that Uncle Bob the executioner, Mueller, did not stumble onto these or have a look at these 302s during his investigation of Michael Flynn. And if Mueller looked at these 302s and it's something that becomes obvious that he should have known that these 302s were altered, and he went ahead and prosecuted Flynn anyway, then he is guilty, of course, in obstructing and falsifying evidence, or collaborating with the falsification of evidence. Either way, however you look at it, Uncle Bob is very, very damn nervous about going ahead with the sentencing of Michael Flynn. He probably wishes he could just undo everything. But he can't undo everything. They've gone too far. They've gone too far. They forced Flynn into a plea bargain to cooperate. Uncle Bob thought he would get something out of Flynn, but there was nothing for Flynn to tell Uncle Bob. Despite all the threats, there was just nothing there. And now it appears that Horowitz, and you can bet that the Congress will get to this, maybe Mr. Huber's looking at this. Eventually there's going to be a presidential commission or special counsel or something. Eventually it's going to come out that there was some hanky-panky going on with those 302s. And it's no big mystery because we have the text messages between Peter Benstrokinus and Lisa Page where Benstrokinus is telling her that he doesn't feel real good about the fact that these 302s could end up being looked at by the Congress. And he's kind of concerned about what they may find. I'm telling you, it has something to do with the fact that Uncle Bob, the executioner, knows that he's got himself in a real hole here because he's already gone this far. What's he going to do now? I mean, Flynn's already copped a plea deal. The sentencing is the next phase. If he goes ahead with the sentencing and it later comes out that the 302s are altered, big trouble. Big, big trouble. So Uncle Bob is got his tit in a ringer, you might say. We'll keep watching, but apparently they asked for a third delay. Ellis wasn't very happy about that, and so he's given them a certain time period to, for both sides, to produce some sort of documents to him explaining why they should have another delay. Delay number 3. So clearly Judge Ellis is not entertained. He's not enjoying this very much. And you get the feeling he's getting pretty fed up with Uncle Bob and what's going on in that case. And what's going on in other cases, which I'm sure he's very familiar with. We'll keep watching. Well, we're now getting some other comments about Peter's been stroking us, and was watching Sarah Carter, and she was talking about the fact that she spoke to some people who were in the hearings with Peter's been stroking us. They should have watched my video of about a week and a half ago when I told them not to waste their time. Peter's been stroking us wasn't going to answer any of your questions, certainly not truthfully. He was going to use it as a personal PR session because he thinks he's so smart that he can, manipulate the Congress. That's exactly what he was thinking he would do. It hasn't worked. It's not going to work. He's got a lot of problems. But in those hearings, Sarah Carter spoke to some people who described Peter's been stroking us, who described his demeanor as being defiant and smug. Defiant and smug. Exactly. It's the picture of arrogance. It's what arrogant people are. They're defiant and smug. Not only that, we learn now that Peter's been stroking us was never placed under oath. Never placed under oath. Huh. No wonder he lied so much. Yeah, if you don't place people under oath, they're definitely going to lie. Especially criminals. Especially criminals who work at the Federal Bureau of Insubordination. Ron DeSantis told Sarah Carter that it was a waste of time. Should have watched my video a week and a half ago. I told you it was going to be a waste of time. Goodlatte says Peter's been stroking us will be called to testify publicly. Good, then he can lie to everybody. He won't be under oath, I assume. He'll have FBI lawyers sitting right there telling him he can't answer any questions. The questions you ask him, he will lie about. I mean, at some point, put your investigation together, get your grand jury in there, and let him lie to a grand jury. That's how you handle that issue. Getting some really bombshell information now regarding the Clinton-Lynch Tarmac meeting from the Gateway pundit, Christine Layla. Of course, let's just recap a little bit. First, after the Lynch Tarmac meeting, the FBI told anyone who was asking that there were no documents about any of that Lynch Tarmac meeting stuff. We come to find out that's not true. That there was documents relating to that. So Judicial Watch and members of Congress began to try to get their hands on some of these documents. Took a while, but Judicial Watch did finally get their hands on some documents, heavily redacted, and as they were going through the documents, they realized from various markers on these pages that they understand when they're looking at them, showed that there were pages missing. Large areas of what they did get blocked out. So they went back to court and sued to get more unredacted and more documents. I'm not sure if they've ever received any more or what the status of that is, but that's what happened there. So then we get the Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz report, and we learn some new things. So let's talk about those new things. According to the Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz, Clinton and Lynch have two different accounts of how the meeting went down. Bill Clinton claims to have been in Phoenix for a fundraiser. However, they cannot find any evidence. Of course, he said he was there for several fundraisers, is what he actually said, and to play golf. Now, I believe that it is page 203 is where these things are found in the IG report. If you want to check your IG report, that's where you would begin, page 203, reading forward. So, anyway, Bill Clinton told Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz that he had been in Phoenix for several fundraisers and to play golf. However, no one can find any evidence of Clinton playing golf. Now, I remember right after that happened, I remember that day very, very well. It was a very hot day here in Ohio, like 95, 96 degrees, very hot. That day in Phoenix, it was close to 110 degrees, one of the hottest days of the year out there. Very, very hot day. Now, you know that Slick Willie, at his age with his health issues, was definitely not out on a golf course when it was 105, 107, 108 degrees that day in Phoenix. And if you remember, at that time, Laura Loomer got busy on that, and she contacted all her sources in every golf course within the Phoenix area, and she could find not a single soul who could verify that Slick Willie was on any golf course in Phoenix that day. And believe me, when Slick Willie comes to the golf course, he comes with a, a convoy of Secret Service protection, local police, and everything else. That he's totally protected like that. I mean, he can't just walk into the golf club and we booked a course, and he's out there mingling with everyone else. He's got Secret Service. He's got all kinds of protection, local police, county police. I mean, they're all called in on a detail like that when a former president is in town for a speech or for anything else. Clinton could not have been out on a golf course in Phoenix that day without people at the golf course knowing about it. Impossible! Unless they close the entire damn golf course down just for Slick Willie, which they wouldn't do. They have to give him a certain amount of room. That they'd make sure not to schedule anyone around him. He has security that will make sure no one on the golf course gets too close to him. But they're not going to shut down the whole golf course. So Laura Loomer dug and dug and dug along with other people. No one can find any evidence that Slick Willie was ever anywhere near a golf course that day, especially with the heat that we were experiencing at that time. It was a heat wave all across the country. It was smoke. It was blazing hot here, let alone in Phoenix. According to reports, Clinton delayed his departing flight from Phoenix to secretly meet with Lynch. And keep in mind, Lynch has a security detail. Clinton has a security detail. They make plans. They have to call ahead for all kinds of security. You cannot just have this clandestine meeting without quite a few people knowing about it. Things have to be done. Calls have to be placed. People have to be put into position. I mean, all these things are standard protocol. We have to believe that all protocols were waived for this secret meeting on this tarmac that day. It's just very difficult to believe. Both Clinton and Lynch maintain that the meeting was not planned. Very difficult to believe. Then we get we learn that Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz did interview both Lynch and Clinton. So now we know that he personally interviewed both of them. And he probably knows they were lying to him, which is another thing we learned throughout the hearings watching Horowitz, is that throughout those hearings we could see multiple times where he was confronted with the fact that, I mean, you say right here, you ask this question, they give you this answer. I mean, can you possibly be believing that? And you could see the look on Horowitz's face, and all he could say was, well, I mean, I asked the questions, they give me the answers. That's, whether or not, I believe it or whatever, I question it, whatever, but that's, I was just asking questions and they were giving answers. But that's where it ends with Horowitz. That's the problem. All the lies that he was told throughout his entire investigation. He gets the lies. He says, okay, well, I guess they're lying to me. Put it in the report. But so this is just all through the Horowitz report. On page 203 of the report, the Office of Public Affairs supervisor said that he later learned that Clinton's Secret Service detail contacted Lynch's FBI security detail to let them know that Clinton wanted to meet with Lynch. Now, at this point, Loretta Lynch, being the Attorney General, and Clinton being a former lawyer, should have known that you would never, ever do that. Because it's 2 days before the FBI is getting ready to interview Hillary, who we were told was a target or the subject of an investigation at that point. Yet these two, knowing good and well what this would look like, go ahead and have that meeting. Clinton makes the call to set up the meeting and Lynch accepts so they could talk about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren. Oh, and West Virginia coal. Horowitz cannot be that stupid. I'm not. I know none of you are. So Lynch's staff members maintain in the report that they had no knowledge of the request and were surprised by Clinton's visit. Somebody's lying. The Office of Public Affairs supervisor said that he later learned that the Clintons' Secret Service detail contacted Lynch's FBI security detail to let them know that Clinton wanted to meet with Lynch. Yet Lynch's staff members maintain in the report that they had no knowledge of the request and were surprised by Clinton's visit. So Clinton's saying that his people called Lynch's people to clear that, yet Lynch's people are saying, no one called to clear that with us. Somebody's lying. Who do you think it is, Slick Willie or Get Back Loretta? One of the two, or both, are lying. The whole thing was about lies. Anyway, the meeting lasted about 30 to 40 minutes. You know, Clinton could have just picked up the phone and called her. Hey, Loretta, how you doing? How's the grandkids? How's golf? How's Brexit? They could have had a few conversations. That's not what happened. And I think we all know what really did happen there. Exactly, specifically what was discussed, we're not sure. We can certainly have ideas, but it was 2 days before Hillary was questioned by the FBI as she was allegedly a target of the investigation. Of course, we know that was fixed as well. She was not under oath, had her lawyers there. They probably didn't even talk about anything. They probably sat there and talked about, whatever, movies or something, and ate, pastries and drank coffee for a couple hours. Said, okay, let's call it a wrap. This will pass as a meeting. Bye. That's pretty much what happened, I'm sure. Loretta Lynch, Get Back Loretta Lynch, is saying that the meeting was purely social. That's just impossible to believe. Clinton says he does not recall talking about West Virginia coal, only golf, Brexit, and grandchildren. However, Lynch says that Clinton talked a good deal about West Virginia coal. Yet when they talked to Clinton, he didn't say anything about West Virginia coal. So then Horowitz asked him, well, Loretta Lynch said you talked about West Virginia coal? Oh, yeah, he says. Oh, yeah. I guess, now that you bring it up, I guess we may have talked about Virginia coal. Yeah, it's something I'm really into. Why would Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton be talking about West Virginia coal in the issue? What, because the Right Reverend Clinton went out and said that she was going to put them all out of work? There was one FBI agent on the plane during the meeting and was likely able to hear the conversation. Well, Huckleberry Horowitz, you might want to identify that FBI agent for us, because he certainly needs to be questioned, don't you think? Did you question him, Huckleberry Horowitz? Well, it appears not. When Clinton arrived at the plane, he was with another man. The other man was not permitted to board the plane. I guess they made him stand out there for a half an hour in the blazing heat. This, of course, is noted on page 203 of the IG report. Then a senior counselor, who we assume they're talking about for Lynch, told Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz that she was waiting in the van with 3 other people, 3 other department employees on the trip. And they saw 2 people walking toward the plane, and they noticed one of them was Slick Willie. So one of Lynch's staffers tried to get back on the plane, but was stopped by the head of Get Back Loretta Lynch's security detail. Apparently there was a heated exchange, which took place right there at the base of the steps where she was trying to board the plane, but was being prevented from doing so. A heated exchange. The senior staff member told Lynch's head of security that the meeting was a bad idea and that she needed to get back on the plane, but he would not let her on. So the senior staffer asked Lynch's head of security to go advise Lynch that the meeting was not a good idea. At which point, the head of security said, well, all right, why don't you go tell her yourself? And she was allowed to board the plane, and that abruptly ended the meeting. Well, if they were just talking about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren, and this staffer is able to finally get on the plane after a heated exchange, she gets on the plane, she goes back to where Loretta Lynch is to advise her, hey, Miss Attorney General, is your legal staff or advisor, I got to tell you, this is not a good idea, okay, right here. At which point, it obviously ended the meeting abruptly, which means something that they were talking about had to be brought to conclusion, and Slick Willie had to leave the plane. If they were just talking about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren, she might have joined in with the conversation and started talking about her own damn grandchildren, or Brexit, or golf, or West Virginia coal, or God knows what. But apparently, it was a very uncomfortable moment, and when she got on that plane, that spooked Loretta Lynch and Clinton, and they broke it off right there, and Clinton left, got off the plane. Of course, we know that also from other documents received by Judicial Watch that once the FBI and DOJ learned about it, the only thing they cared about, they didn't care at all about the fact that this meeting happened, almost as if they knew about it. They didn't seem even surprised by it, almost as if they knew it was going to happen, or just didn't care. The only thing they were concerned with was finding out who leaked it. They wanted to get that guy. Remember that? The security guy, who apparently is the one who tipped off the news person. Hey, you know, former Bill Clinton president's out there in the tarmac meeting with somebody important. You might want to check that out. You're the news media, right? They went out there and tried to cover it. They wanted to get that guy. Do you think they ever got that guy? Oh, my guess is they found out who it was. My guess is they found out who it was. I wonder if Huckleberry Horowitz interviewed that guy. My guess is no. What do you think? Horowitz never interviewed either Clinton or Lynch's security detail. Huckleberry Horowitz took Lynch's word that the meeting was unplanned. The meeting, of course, violates multiple security protocols and should never have happened, and as I can attest to you, could never have happened in the way that it did if it was just simply an unplanned meeting. There's too many protocols that even the Attorney General and a former president cannot just dictatorially say, do this, we're going to do this. There's all kinds of protocols that these individuals who work for them must follow. And if you're following these protocols, this type of an event could never occurred. Huckleberry Horowitz is not that stupid. We see this all through the IG report. He gets to a certain point, he gets lied to, or he stumbles onto an obvious point where you would say as a typical attorney or prosecutor or investigator, you would look at, uh-oh, there's something wrong here. I need to open that door. I need to see what's behind that door. I need to go down the hall and open that door and see what's behind that door. I need to talk to this guy and that guy. That's not what happens all through the IG report. He only goes on the surface. Goes to the principals of that he's got to talk to. He asks them questions. They lie to him. He puts it in his report. That's what we got. So, there's a lot more to know about that meeting on the tarmac, because we haven't gotten anywhere near the truth. Not even close. Not even close. I can absolutely guarantee you, that whatever they talked about on the tarmac had a lot to do with Hillary's situation, with that investigation into that private email server and her mishandling of classified information. This is common sense. These people are not going to tell you the truth. They're going to lie to you. Huckleberry Horowitz has to know this. He's not stupid. He's been a prosecutor for a long time. This guy's had more people lie to him than you can possibly imagine. He knows when he's being lied to. We'll keep following that story. Well, Louis Gohmert says he has just learned that people are telling him that Rodenstein is spying on him now. Yeah, Louis Gohmert's been particularly harsh on Rodenstein, and I can understand why. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Rodenstein isn't spying on all these Republicans that are trying to lock his heels. That would make perfect sense. Make perfect sense to me. I have no doubt that that's the case. We also have this nutcase from the View. How she ever got on TV is beyond me. But we have Joy Behar claiming that because the Republicans have Congress, both houses of Congress and the White House, that it is essentially a dictatorship. A dictatorship. No, actually, it would not be a dictatorship there, Ms. Behar, because they were elected to those positions of power, because that's who the people would prefer to have. What a ridiculous statement. Trump's numbers among blacks and Hispanics have doubled since the election. Wow. You know, that's a nail in the coffin for the Democrats in 2018, 2020, and beyond. They can't overcome that unless they can go steal some Republicans from somewhere else. I mean, you know, they have to figure that one out. They cannot have Republicans, particularly Trump, getting double the number of blacks and Hispanics that Republicans would normally get and have them still win elections. That is not possible. They will lose, and lose really, really bad in 2018 and 2020 if these numbers bear that statistic out. Winning. Should talk about the protests going on in Iran. I haven't had a chance to. So much news the last 5 days. But we are now on day 5 of what's going on in Iran. I've been watching this very closely. Haven't talked about it. But we are now for the first time seeing that the people in Iran have the upper hand. I watched a couple video clips that are unbelievable. Normally, what we see is that the Iranian government unleashes the Iranian special guard, whatever they call them. They unleash them on the people and they just beat them to death. But what we are seeing on recent videos coming out of Iran is massive protests all across the country. They are literally showing Iranian police abandoning their bicycles and their cars and running for their lives. Some of them have been caught. And there's videos showing Iranians giving major beatdowns to these cops right on the streets. So now the people have overwhelmed the cops and they are beating the snot out of them right there in the streets of Tehran. And the Ayatollah has basically stated that he is going to crack the whip and, crack down on them. I don't know what he'll send the military out or what he's going to do, but that would tip the thing into full-scale, full-blown revolution. You would have millions and millions and millions of people on the streets, and that thing would just completely, it would be done. There's even voices coming out of Iran from the Iranian leadership. We're hearing about possible high-level Iranian leaders making arrangements to get the hell out of the country. I told you about 2 months ago that I thought 6 months, no more than a year, if we continue the sanctions and apply the pressure. And Trump really hasn't even started applying those sanctions and pressure yet. He's going to get to it as soon as he can. I'm telling you, that regime is close to collapse. I read a letter about an hour before I did this video. I think it popped up last night on Last Refuge, Conservative Treehouse. And it's a letter written by Nunez to Goodlatte and Gowdy, where he's talking about, in light of the various things that they're discovering throughout their hearings and investigations, that there are some people that need to be interviewed, and they fall probably more under the joint committee that is headed by Gowdy and Goodlatte, which of course features all the guys we saw yesterday interviewing Rodenstein and Ray. And in this letter, Nunez is saying, hey, you guys need to interview these individuals regarding the FISA abuse and other things about the 2016 election, the investigations, the counter-intel operation and things and such. And Nunez sent this letter to Gowdy and Goodlatte suggesting they interview the following individuals. There are 17. I will name them for you now. Lisa Page. Peter's been stroking us. Sally Moyer, Kevin Kleinsmith, the other two lovers, the other pair of lovers and Trump haters, Joe Pintka. Joe Pintka, of course, is the agent who set in on the Flynn questioning, and Rodenstein is refusing to allow him to be interviewed. Of course, Trish Anderson, who was in a fairly high position. She was like the #1 top lawyer above these other lawyers that we've been talking about. She was over Moyer and Kleinsmith and the 3 FBI agents. James Baker, he was a high-level player. Of course, we know he quit. We have Greg Bauer, John Carlin. John Carlin. We know what he was all about, right? NSD. DOJ NSD. Signed off on the first FISA warrant and quit. Tosh Gauhar, a name who's been coming up a lot lately. David Laufman, who of course was demoted then quit. Andy McCabe, Mary McCord, John Muffa, Bruce Orr, Bill Priestep, and George Toscas. These are all individuals that Nunez says he believes that Goodlatte and Gowdy ought to be subpoenaing over to their committee to interview them. Okay, so now that we're about 24, 36 hours out from the questioning of Rod Rodenstein and no shit Sherlock Ray, it's been pretty obvious if you watch any of the people who were in those hearings or watch the hearings who have any common sense at all, it's obvious that Rodenstein was lying a lot, that he was dodging a lot, that he was hiding behind the bureaucracy a lot, and that he was not just stonewalling, but it's more blatant than that. I mean, it's worse than that. It's almost like he's looking at them and saying, I am going to sit here and lie to you about what I'm doing, and you're going to know I'm lying. I'm going to know I'm lying. I'm going to know you know that I know that you know I'm lying. But that's okay, because you ain't going to be able to do shit about it. And you can go ahead and file and if you want to and hold me in contempt or whatever, impeach me or whatever. I ain't quitting. I'll go to court. Because he's playing this game where I guess he feels his strategy, Rodenstein feels his strategy, is that he can play the same game Comey played. Which is, you can't fire me, Trump, because if you do, I can say that, well, you fired me because I was closing in on you with this investigation with Uncle Bob, and the reason you fired me was to shut down me and Uncle Bob because we got this investigation, which is going to expose your crimes or what have you. You see, this is the game that Rodenstein is playing. He's playing chicken. It's a very dangerous game. I don't know exactly how this is going to turn out, but I can tell you for Rodenstein, it is not going to turn out good. They are going to lose. Why? Again, as I've said before, Trump is not just going to let this go. He's probably getting political advice telling him to wait till after 2018, after the midterm, before he launches. And quite honestly, if you're thinking politically, which Trump can certainly do when he needs to, and we know he's a pretty good political strategist, the time that you would really want to unravel all this is about 1 year, 12 to 15 months before the 2020 elections. That's when you would really want to unravel all this. It destroys your opponent. Because we're thinking about 2018, but Trump, he's thinking about 2020. And to him, he would love to have this sitting in his arsenal a year before 2020 when he's up for re-election to be able to drop all this. So I just believe that Trump's got a plan. You know, it's kind of a faith-based religion I have at this point. I believe Trump has a plan. But also I believe there's just too many people pushing. This is too big. It's not going away. Too many people pushing. Too many people are not going to back off. This thing is going to get ugly and uglier and uglier as it goes on, and the political rhetoric around it's going to get worse and worse. I mean, we're in for a very, very rough sort of deal, but we'll be winning all the way. And at least ways now we're fighting back for the first time in 30 years, 40 years. We've never even had someone who would help mount a fight. It had to have someone at the top of the government. But now we have that, President Trump. We just have to hang in there, keep pushing, keep doing what we're doing. Eventually, these perps are going to pay for their crimes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your day. Stay cool. Plenty of fluids. Plenty of fluids. Thank you so much for tuning in.